Ta-da! And back at you again with another episode of Stop the Capping. And this is Super Bowl weekend. Super Bowl weekend. And today, we're going to keep it on the sports tip. We're not talking about the violence, the corruption. We're going to keep it on the Super Bowl this evening. So welcome to this edition of Stop the Cap, Super Bowl edition. I'm your host, Ahmad. And let's talk about it. So today was Super Bowl number 59. This is the 59th running of the Super Bowl, of the NFL Super Bowl in New Orleans, between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. And oh my God. Kansas City, they were there. They had their uniforms on. They was on the field. I'm not sure if I want to call this playing. I'm not sure if I want to call this playing. Now, during the NFC AFC championship game to get here, it was kind of suspect. When they barely won to get here, I was looking at them like, I hope they play better than this. And to my demise, they did not. They came out looking straight like booty. Straight like booty. I don't know what Andy Reeves and his offensive coordinator, his defensive coordinator, I don't know what kind of game plan that they was putting together. I don't know what kind of film that they were looking at. I don't know what kind of scouting report they did. I'm not sure what they was doing out there. It was looking bad. It was looking horrible. I don't know what they was doing. Tell me. That's how they were playing. They were playing like man down, man beat down. They were playing like they not like us. The Philadelphia Eagles came out there, played them like they are not like us, which was the halftime feature of the Super Bowl. But before we get to that point, let's just talk about the game. It started off rough for both of them during that first 3 or 4 minutes. Both teams failed to capitalize on their first possession of the ball. And me and my brother, we decided to go out and watch the game. So we went to Buffalo Wild Wings and ordered some wings and things like that. And we decided to do some brotherly bonds like we always do. And we decided to watch the game. Now, neither one of us had a favorite pick. I just wanted a good game. Usually I pick Kansas City if there had been any other team. But since it was Philadelphia, and I had kind of watched how Jalen Hurts was raised, how he was brought up, him and his brother, how his father had motivated them, have had took them under his wing as young men, and how he brought them up. And I liked his story. I liked it how he came about, how his I want to call it road to success was built through his father. And I sort of liked that personality. I liked how he was not only a football player, but he was an educated football player. The young man got mad intelligence. Mad intelligence. Trust and believe me. We just talked about his football skills and his football paralysis, but the young man got mad intelligence. Mad intelligence. He is not stupid by a long shot. And some people was doubting him, criticizing him, you know what I'm saying? And I hate when we as African American assume a position that was normally done by Caucasians, and we don't succeed sometimes at that level. We looked at as being incompetent or not mentally prepared for such position. And that's the only part I hate, is that sometimes we get a knock when we don't succeed where a Caucasian person has succeeded before. And when we don't succeed, when a Caucasian has succeeded, they some Caucasians seem to take that as see, look at them. They can't handle this. See, look at them. They're not mentally strong, or they're not mentally this, or they're not mentally that. That's why it has taken this long for African Americans to be quarterbacks. We're physically gifted to run, hit, but we're not physically mental to handle all of the intricacies of playing a quarterback position. So they thought. It took them this long to realize they're not like us. It took some of these young guns to turn the heads of the NFL and realize that, hold on here. These young African American quarterbacks ain't as stupid as we've been thinking they are. They can play this game. So I really didn't have a pick. I just wanted them both to do good, or both wanted to have a good, because you have, even though they're from mixed gender, even though they're from a biracial community, I still wanted them to succeed, because even at being biracial, there's some point of African descent within that gender. They get that, sometimes they get that same nod or same push as an African American. Can they handle it? Can they perform? Do they have the mental capacity to think under pressure? So I wanted them both to do good, because, like I said, there are people out there who think that just because of a race or a creed or a color that we can't perform certain tasks, when black man has been serving a lot of tasks that we don't get credit for. And I don't want to make this a racial profiling issue. It's a Super Bowl thing, but I just want to bring up some facts that need to be spoken on when it's concerning African American quarterbacks in the NFL, when it's concerning African American quarterbacks in college. We wasn't always getting that nod. African Americans wasn't built to be made into quarterbacks. That was usually a Caucasian's position. In the last 2 to 10 years, it has slightly changed in both the NFL and the college collegiate football era. That has changed. Now we're seeing predominant African American quarterbacks popping up left, right, and center. Now they have seen the success of other African Americans in the NFL, and now they're starting to show what they can do. Doug Flutie, not Doug Flutie, Doug from the Washington Redskins was one of the first African Americans to win a Super Bowl, but he wasn't the first African American to actually play in a Super Bowl. First one to win it. We have Warren Moon. There have been some great African American quarterbacks. Randy Cunningham. So we've had some good African American quarterbacks out there. But because they never made it to the mountaintop, they wasn't getting that nod, just like African American coach wasn't getting that nod. They didn't get that vote of confidence from the universities, from the owners in the NFL. That's why, it's the way it is. You have a bunch of African American players, but that are good enough to play, but you don't have a bunch of African American coaches that are good enough to coach. Which sometimes beg to differ with what you thinking, make it make sense. You have NFL head coaches that once were former players. Flip that over, you have African American players that were once players but want to be head coach but never get the nod, never get the opportunity. So I wanted both of them to succeed and do well, even though it is a biracial player out there on the field. I think Jalen Hurt, if people don't know it, I think he's also from a biracial home. I think his mom was German, if I'm not mistaken. So at the end of the day, I wanted them both to succeed. I wanted them both to have good games. But however, both of them showed up, but both of them did not play because one played like they didn't belong there. And Patrick has always been known for his Bradiness demeanor. He was shown that he can always come back. Well, not today. He did not show that brilliancy that has made Patrick Mahomes one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in the 21st century. They got outplayed today. Basically, without being too vulgar, they got handed their ass on a silver platter and sent back to Kansas City. It did not look good at all, ladies and gentlemen. It looked bad. I mean, from the first half. They had more penalties than they had yardage. That's how bad it was. It was awful. It got so bad, I left and went to another store that was going to be closing soon. So I told my brother, hey, maybe by the time I get through shopping by the second half, because there's only like 40 seconds left in the first half, I was like, well, hey, maybe by the time I get done shopping and come back, I actually left the restaurant, went shopping. That's how bad Kansas City was getting their butts kicked. That's how bad it was. When I left, the score was 17-0. There still was some time left in the second half. Not much, but there was some time left. When I made it back from the store to continue watching, the score was 33-7. Make that make sense. 33-7. What was Kansas City thinking about for 30 something minutes? The only thing they succeeded was getting a bunch of penalties. That is the only thing that they did, was get a bunch of penalties. They were getting penalties of the highest order that did not make sense whatsoever. The penalties that they were getting. It made no sense. Why a team this good, this well disciplined, were getting all these penalties made no sense whatsoever. They were getting penalties left and right. And I mean penalties of the stupid highest order. It made no sense, some of the penalties that they were getting. Made absolutely no sense whatsoever, some of the penalties that they were getting. It did not. I'm not sure who was in them uniforms. I am not sure who was in those uniforms. Because Kansas City did not show up to play. They showed up to get part of their paycheck. They showed up with their families, but they did not show out. They had all their friends and family there, but they did not show up to play. If this was a conspiracy game about betting and dropping and flipping and flopping, this would be that game. If someone wants to talk conspiracy or throwing a game or getting paid under the table, this would be the kind of game that you could use to be like, hey, somebody in here been paid to flop this game. Because thinking that the Philadelphia Eagles, even though they came close a couple of times ago to beat them, and they came up short, and the Eagles to make it back again and win it, that shows grit, determination, and teamwork. Because it's easy to get to the, it's not hard getting to the Super Bowl. It is very hard to get to the Super Bowl. It is even harder to win it. Let me repeat myself again. It is hard to get to the NFL. It is hard to repeat. Whether you win or not, it is hard to repeat in the NFL. It don't come easy, folks. Winning an NFL championship is not easy at all. And the teams that have won it back to back, that's even more difficult. Now, Kansas City was going for a three-peat, which has only been one team in the history of the NFL that has three Super Bowl back to back to back. Only one. And football has been around for a very, very, very long time. But there's only one team in the NFL with a three-peat that has held that Vince Lombardi trophy over three times in a row consistently. And I think it's the Green Bay Packers back in the early 60s. You can Google it and check. But there's only one team in the NFL with a three-peat. Now, there have been other NFLs that have won it three or more times, but we're talking about back to back to back consecutive, a three-peat. Not win it, lose it, come back, win it again. No, we're talking about back to back to back. That is very hard to do. We've had a lot of two-time champions that done it back to back, but three, only one. It is very hard. And Kansas was on the history if they had won it to tie it, to be the second team in NFL history to win a three-peat. I'm not gonna say they came up short. They were beaten. They were beaten down. But this is the loss of the highest order. This ain't not played well. This you can't use none of that excuses. They got beat down. Their only highlights was turnovers and mistakes. Kansas City only highlights, as far as I'm concerned, was turnovers and mistakes, one after another after another. Mahomes looked like Shador from the Colorado Buffaloes. He was getting sacked so much. I thought Shador Sanders was out there playing. That's how bad Mahomes was laying on that ground. Every time I look up, he's on the ground. I was like, hold up, is that Mahomes or is that Shador? I thought it was Shador Sanders out there playing for Kansas City. That's how much Mahomes was on that ground. Every time I look up, somebody was throwing him down. Every time I look up, he was getting up off the ground. They had more penalty yards than they had completions. Make that make sense. You get to the Super Bowl, you get to the final, and you play your worst game in your life. You get to a final and play the worst game of your NFL career. My father always said there's a first Sunday in every month. Well, Kansas City, this is your guys' first Sunday. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it was almost a shutout. Me and my brother, we sitting at the table thinking, is this dude really going to go out like this? Is he really going to get here to the Super Bowl and leave here with a zero? I'm like, nah, he ain't going to do this. But like, it looked like, I was like, nah, he ain't going to just let himself just leave